Did I actually join FaZe Clan? Yes, I did. Was I on the talent roster? Maybe not. After 7 months of dead silence, my subscribers have been going crazy. Muadh, where have you been? Muadh, when are you gonna start posting content again? Just kidding. Well, where have I been? In the last 7 months, I've studied abroad, and then I joined FaZe Clan. Like, actually, it was nuts. I started a podcast. I spent about 2 months applying and interviewing with 12 companies, landed my dream job, and now I'm back. In this video, I'll be taking you on the wild journey of my life, what I've been up to over the last few months, and what my future plans are. Now, I'm not Sebastian Georgiou. I don't have an 8-figure net worth, but I have some pretty ambitious goals, and I've been pretty good at accomplishing them, and I have even bigger ones coming along the way. I want to present to you the journey of my life to give you as much perspective as possible and help you succeed in any way. If you're in your early 20s or in college, and you're at all interested in business, entrepreneurship, or just learning more about how I saw success in college and how I'm building success earlier on in my career, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and stay tuned till the end of this video because that's what we do on this channel. Just to recap, I'm a 22-year-old college graduate. I recently started working for an incredible company that focuses on delivering market intelligence to private equity and corporate venture clients. I landed an internship at FaZe Clan a few months ago, and before that, I worked on an education technology startup, an e-commerce startup, and I was a basketball athlete at my local community college. And I'm just a normal person. I don't have a crazy background. Some of these things might not be what you want to do, but if they are, or if you're curious how I did them, you're probably wondering, how did I get to this point? I think the best way to share that is to talk about what my mentality was from a kid up until now. My entire life, my parents' personal decision was to homeschool me as a kid. I never went to public school until I turned 13, and up until then, I had wanted to go to school more than anything. I wanted a crazy social life, I wanted to experience so many things, and I was pretty generally ambitious. When I finally got into public school, life wasn't the High School Musical movie that I thought it would be. I wasn't making all the friends I wanted, and I was a friendly and outgoing person, but I felt like I didn't vibe with as many people as I thought I would. So I refocused all that energy into experiencing everything that I could. In high school, that was basketball, choir, volunteer clubs, student government, and out of everything I tried, basketball stuck with me the most. I love the feeling of being an athlete, being competitive, outworking other people, and just grinding. And I had fairly decent grades, so I decided to pursue an athletic scholarship in college. And I started talking to my high school coaches. They didn't really guide me in the right direction, so I connected with other people. I found a trainer that played at a local private college. I found 2 other coaches that had played overseas in professional leagues, and I just started grinding and training. Now, I was by no means a Steph Curry, and college sports were incredibly competitive, but I'd always outworked others, and I thought, I'll find some way to figure it out. So at first I was gonna walk on to a private school, but then I realized it was way too expensive, so I dropped out last second. And then I somehow ran into the assistant coach at my local community college, and I decided that walking on at that community college, saving money, and transferring to a university down the line was a much smarter plan. And this is where things started to get both really good and really bad. So I ended up spending the first year of college as a gray shirt, which basically meant I didn't play at all with my team, I just practiced, and I saved a year of athletic eligibility, but I also had to take under 12 units and miss out on financial aid. And right away I started to get really bad injuries. Some of them put me out for months, and some of them I'm actually still getting out of my system today. And this was really a bad look for me and my spot next year on the team, but eventually I ended up making the team my second year. But unfortunately, I was a bench warmer for a good amount of that year, and at this point, I started to realize that if I wanted to see success in basketball, the commitment into this would be much bigger, and it just wasn't the right decision for me moving forward. So as a backup plan, I stayed on top of my academics with perfect grades, and I earned multiple scholarships, and I was involved with a ton of honor societies and programs. 2 months into my sophomore year, I switched my major from kinesiology to psychology and decided that I was going to apply to universities and transfer. I got into like 8 universities, including UCLA, and this is where shit hit the fan. COVID hit. All of a sudden, my university experience was online. I missed out on my junior college graduation. My study abroad plans were canceled. It just seemed like things were going wrong. But that wasn't my perspective the entire time. I was framing things, every single thing, in a more positive way, understanding that things sucked for everyone else just as much as they sucked for me. And this allowed me to continue staying consistent and productive. My idea of transferring to UC Irvine was I would learn more about psychology, because I wanted to learn more about how the human mind worked and how I could take control of my mind. While psych did end up helping with this, it didn't deliver exactly what I was looking for. Luckily, I found something else I was really passionate about, and that was a startup ecosystem. There were kids at my school that were my age or younger, building out their own companies and using resources from their school to do it. I'd always considered business, but I never thought it was my thing until I discovered startups. The idea was I'd be able to learn and experience growth from being in a startup, and I would also be able to expand my personal network and make money doing it. My first startup idea was an education technology startup. Since I worked in special education, I was able to use my school's resources, build out a team, product manage, and project manage a problem that I've observed, and I even went on to become a semi-finalist in a business competition. After 4 to 5 months, I realized I just wasn't learning things as quickly as I wanted to, and the idea that I was working on wasn't something that I wanted to commit to in the long term. That's when I started working on my e-commerce startup, and see the other videos on this channel for reference. When that didn't work out how I wanted, I just closed down the store, and I spent a few months finally studying abroad at the peak of the Omicron variant of COVID and traveling all over Europe. Alright, let's pause and recap. So I started off passionate about being an athlete. I kept trying different things between jobs and extracurriculars at school, and I found out I was super passionate about startups, and I just stayed curious and hungry. I wasn't some super rich kid. I'd earned scholarships, I'd had financial aid. I was just relatively smart with my money. Even though I failed at getting an athletic scholarship and my startups, I never felt like they were failures. I'd learned an enormous amount, and I met people at each leg of the journey, and I just began to better understand what it took to see success and recognize the things that I was interested in. After trying so many different things, I knew what I was attracted to, and I knew what successful people did. They networked with people, they read books, they were consistent, and all these other things, and I just started to naturally attract and be attracted to similar people in my life. When I got back from studying abroad in Europe, I'd already had the foresight to understand that I wouldn't be running a profitable business anytime soon. So around this time, I realized that going into business and maybe working at a startup would be the smartest move for me. And that's where FaZe Clan came in. They were a startup, I had startup experience, I'd also been a content creator for making videos on this channel. I talked to business students at my university to understand how to master my interviews. So I applied to an internship and I was offered a job, and so I started working as an intern with them. I knew that my internship was a huge networking opportunity, so I talked with every single person that I could from every department, and I ended up getting on calls with about over 30 different people from different departments. And from all these conversations, I realized the smartest way to personally leverage every single thing that I've done in the past to achieve a lot of the things that I wanted from my future was through a sales career. Being in sales was like being an athlete. It brought personal growth, it was entrepreneurial, and it just made a lot more sense for me than other careers when I analyzed my personal goals. So after my internship ended, I started researching everything I could on sales, applying for sales jobs, and eventually landing a dream job with an incredible company. Now, if I were watching this video a few years ago, one thing would be nagging on my mind. Muadh, you're very entrepreneurial, you love innovation. How would you fit in at a company, and how do you tell them all these things? The way I see it, the things I was looking for from entrepreneurship and business, I found in my company. Also, you don't necessarily need to be the CEO of a company. That's just a title. I just wanted to grow as quickly as possible, to learn as much as possible, and to make a good amount of money. I wasn't looking for clout. And I found that a company, at least mine, would offer a lot of those things. And if I was just being realistic with myself, I didn't know how to build out a really big company or do a lot of other things that you have to do in business. And I would also be ignorant if I shut out what I didn't know and I considered a job as something that wasn't for me. Now, does that mean the right move is to learn everything about building a company by working for another company and then starting your own? It depends. If you're in an amazing environment and your needs are fulfilled, it could be better to work for another company. But always keep in mind, business is transactional. You're not family, you're there to help them with their needs. On the flip side, I also understood that you'll have opportunities to develop powerful relationships if you're at the right place and start building out your name and your personal brand. And this can easily be tarnished if you don't properly develop a relationship with your company. So what were my lessons from the end of all this? Did things work out for me? Not in every situation. Did I get a lot of opportunities for a kid that was pretty much figuring things out on his own? A ton. The main lessons from my experience are your thoughts combined with your actions combined with persistence eventually compound into results, and you can leverage those results and experiences into something bigger and bigger. But also understand that you can't do everything as your responsibilities and wants grow. You also don't have to be a superstar at each thing. You just have to have a very quick learning curve, be able to fail quickly, and have a general idea of what you want from life. Another thing that I learned was staying true to myself was very important. At every single point in my life, I stayed true to myself, and it attracted the right people and the right opportunities were sent my way. And it made me recognize that life is really about making the right decisions. If I would have gone to that private school, if I would have continued playing basketball with my injuries, if I would have stuck with my e-commerce startup or my education technology startup, I probably would have been a lot farther off from my goals, and I wouldn't be in the best position to succeed, and I probably wouldn't have learned things as quickly. So you really have to know when things aren't giving you a high return on your investment of time and energy, and when you need to move forward. It's risky, it's hard, but the grass is almost always greener if what you're doing isn't working and you're really analyzing your decision. I also kept my social circle very, very small, and it still is to this day. By doing this, I was able to be much more selective about the thoughts and the energy that I fed into my brain, and I felt like that was 99% of the challenge. Just a quick disclaimer, this is my story, not yours. Take what you want from it, but know that every person's situation is unique. And that's my story. There's a lot more, and if you want to hear more, make sure you tap in with this channel by subscribing. I've actually recently started a new podcast with my friend Justin. Make sure you check out his channel. I'll have the link to both in the description. And I'm probably also going to be living on LinkedIn now that I started working. So go ahead and connect me with me on LinkedIn down in the description if you're interested in being a part of the journey. That's all for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.